My stepfather spent years telling me I'd never amount to anything, so I bought the company he works for and made myself his new boss. When Mom married Vincent, I was 12 and desperate for a father figure. My real dad had vanished when I was 4, leaving behind child support checks that bounced more than they cleared. Vincent seemed perfect at first. He fixed our broken garage door, taught me to change oil, and never missed my Little League games. The honeymoon lasted exactly 6 months. It started small. You struck out again? Maybe baseball isn't your sport. Then it escalated. Another C+ in math? At this rate, you'll be lucky to flip burgers. By high school, his favorite phrase was, "You're just not built for success, kiddo." Every college rejection letter became ammunition. State school waitlisted you? I'm not surprised. When I finally got into community college, he laughed. 2-year degree? That's not real college. I worked nights at a gas station to pay tuition. Vincent would drive by on his way to his job at Meridian Industries, a mid-sized manufacturing company where he'd been a floor supervisor for 15 years. He'd honk and wave mockingly, then tell Mom I was wasting my time on fantasy education. After community college, I transferred to finish my business degree. Vincent's commentary intensified. Business major? You can't even balance a checkbook. When I graduated with honors, he shrugged. Participation trophy generation. Degrees don't mean anything anymore. I landed an entry-level position at a logistics company. Vincent's response? Mailroom work isn't a career. I stayed late every night, studying industry trends, networking, learning everything about supply chain management. Within 2 years, I was promoted to coordinator. Vincent called it luck. At 25, I started my own consulting firm specializing in manufacturing efficiency. The first year was brutal. Ramen dinners and maxed out credit cards. Vincent would shake his head at family dinners. Playing entrepreneur won't pay the bills forever, but I was obsessed. I studied every client's operation like my life depended on it. I revolutionized their workflow systems. Word spread. My client base doubled, then tripled. Within 3 years, I was pulling 7 figures annually. Mom was proud, but Vincent remained dismissive. Consulting is temporary work. You need a real job with benefits. Last month, I received an interesting phone call. Meridian Industries was struggling. Their efficiency was down 30%. Their biggest client was threatening to pull their contract. The board wanted to bring in outside help before considering bankruptcy. They wanted to hire my firm. I spent 2 weeks analyzing their operation. The company was hemorrhaging money due to outdated processes and poor management. The floor supervisors, including Vincent, were stuck in 1995, resistant to any modernization. During my presentation to the board, I laid out a comprehensive restructuring plan. Not only could I save the company, I could double their profits within 18 months. The board was impressed. The CEO was thrilled. That's when I made my offer. I don't want consulting fees, I told them. I want to buy the company. The board went silent. I continued. I'll purchase 65% of shares at current market value. I'll invest another $2 million in modernization. And I'll personally oversee the transition as CEO. 3 weeks of negotiations later, the papers were signed. Yesterday was my first day as owner and CEO of Meridian Industries. I walked through the factory floor, observing the operation I now controlled. Workers nodded respectfully. Supervisors scrambled to look busy. Then I saw him. Vincent stood by machine 7, barking orders at a young employee. He looked older, grayer, but his arrogance remained intact. He hadn't noticed me yet. I approached slowly, savoring the moment I'd dreamed about for years. "Excuse me," I said. Vincent turned around, annoyance flashing across his face. Then recognition hit. His expression shifted from irritation to confusion to something resembling fear. "What are you doing here?" he asked. I smiled and extended my hand. "Let me introduce myself properly. I'm the new owner and CEO, which means I'm your boss now." Vincent's face went pale. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. The young employee he'd been yelling at stopped working to watch our exchange. "That's impossible," Vincent stammered. "You're just a kid. You work at some tiny consulting firm." "Actually, I own that consulting firm. And now I own this one too." I pulled out my phone and showed him the press release from that morning. Meridian Industries under new leadership. Local entrepreneur takes control. Vincent's hands shook as he read. Around us, other workers had started to gather, sensing something significant was happening. "This is some kind of joke," he said, his voice cracking. "No joke. I'm dead serious." I gestured around the factory floor. "See all this? It's mine now. The machines, the inventory, the building, and everyone who works here reports to me." The plant manager, Donald Krebs, hurried over. He'd been briefed about the ownership change, but hadn't met me yet. "Mr. Dalton? I'm Donald Krebs, plant manager. Welcome to Meridian." "Thank you, Donald. I was just introducing myself to Vincent here. He's been telling me about his work processes." Donald nodded enthusiastically. "Vincent's one of our most experienced supervisors. Been here 15 years, so I've heard." I turned back to Vincent, who looked like he might be sick. "Vincent, I'd like to see you in the main office in 10 minutes. We need to discuss your role in the company's restructuring." Vincent nodded mutely and shuffled away. The crowd of workers dispersed, whispers following in their wake. Donald walked with me toward the office building. "Sir, if you don't mind me asking, how do you know Vincent?" "Family connection," I said simply. The main office hadn't been updated since the 1980s. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, and beige carpet that had seen better decades. My first priority would be modernizing the workspace to attract better talent. Vincent knocked on the doorframe exactly 10 minutes later. I gestured for him to sit in one of 2 chairs facing the desk, the same desk where the previous CEO had signed the papers transferring ownership to me. Vincent, I began, leaning back in the leather chair. We need to talk. Look, if this is about what I said. What you said? I interrupted. Which part? The 15 years of telling me I'd never amount to anything? The constant criticism? The mockery every time I tried to improve myself? Vincent's face flushed red. You were just a kid. I was trying to prepare you for the real world. The real world. I opened the folder containing his employment file. Let me tell you about the real world, Vincent. This company is failing. Productivity is down, costs are up, and morale is in the gutter. Want to know why? I slid his performance reviews across the desk. Resistant to change. Unwilling to learn new systems. Frequently clashes with younger employees. Multiple complaints about management style. Vincent looked at the papers but didn't touch them. The previous management tolerated your attitude because you've been here forever. But I'm not the previous management. You can't fire me, Vincent said quickly. I have seniority. The union will do exactly what I tell them to do because I'm the one signing their paychecks now. I leaned forward. But I'm not firing you, Vincent. Not yet. His eyebrows shot up. Instead, I'm giving you an opportunity to prove that you can adapt, learn, grow. Show me that you're capable of more than just being a bitter, small-minded man who tears down anyone trying to better themselves. I opened my laptop and pulled up the restructuring timeline. Starting Monday, all supervisors will undergo 3 weeks of intensive training on new efficiency protocols. You'll learn modern inventory management, updated safety procedures, and proper employee motivation techniques. Classes run from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Vincent's mouth dropped open. That's 11 hours a day. I know. I can do math despite what you told Mom about my abilities. I clicked to the next slide. After training, there will be comprehensive examinations. Supervisors who pass will be promoted to senior supervisors with a 15% salary increase. Those who fail, I let the words hang in the air. You'll also be required to submit weekly reports on your progress, attend monthly performance reviews, and participate in peer evaluation sessions. Your success will be measured not just on productivity metrics, but on employee satisfaction scores from your direct reports. Vincent shifted uncomfortably in his chair. This is revenge. This is business. The same business you spent years telling me I could never understand. I closed the laptop. Every other supervisor in this plant will go through identical training. The only difference is they weren't part of my childhood. I stood up and walked to the window overlooking the factory floor. Workers moved between machines, most looking older and more tired than they should. This place needed fresh energy. I'm implementing a profit-sharing program, I continued without turning around. Every employee gets a quarterly bonus based on overall company performance. We're also adding healthcare benefits, paid training opportunities, and tuition reimbursement for employees pursuing relevant education. That'll cost a fortune, Vincent protested. Happy employees are productive employees. Productive employees generate more profit than the cost of treating them well. I turned back to face him. It's a business principle they teach in those fantasy colleges you spent so long mocking. Vincent looked smaller somehow, hunched in the chair that seemed to swallow him. There's something else, I said, returning to my seat. I've been reviewing safety reports. This plant has had 14 workplace injuries in the past 18 months, 3 of them serious enough to require hospitalization. The investigation showed most were due to supervisors cutting corners on safety protocols to meet quotas. I pulled out another folder, this one thicker than his employment file. Want to guess whose section had the highest injury rate? Vincent's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. Machine 7 through Machine 12. Your section. 4 injuries, including a broken wrist, a concussion, and second-degree chemical burns. I looked at him steadily. One of those injured workers was a 19-year-old kid named Timothy Chen. Same age I was when you told me college was a waste of time. Accidents happen, Vincent muttered. Not like this, they don't. Not when proper procedures are followed. I opened the folder and began reading from the incident reports. Timothy Chen suffered chemical burns because safety equipment was stored across the factory floor instead of at each workstation. When I asked why, the answer was, Vincent said it slows down production to walk back and forth for gear. Vincent's face was turning red again, but this time with embarrassment instead of anger. The broken wrist happened because a machine guard was removed to speed up loading. The concussion occurred when a worker tried to clear a jam without shutting down the machine first. All because you prioritized speed over safety. I closed the folder and leaned back. Starting next week, every section will have dedicated safety equipment stations. Every machine will have mandatory safety protocols that cannot be bypassed. And every supervisor who violates these procedures will be immediately terminated. Vincent finally found his voice. You're treating me like a criminal. I'm treating you like an employee whose performance needs improvement, the same way you treated me like a failure whose potential needed crushing. I opened another document on my computer. Let's talk about your compensation. Currently, you make $67,000 annually as a floor supervisor. The new senior supervisor position pays $77,000, but only for those who complete the training program successfully. Vincent's eyes widened slightly. Despite everything, the possibility of a raise clearly interested him. However, there's another option. I'm creating a new position, training coordinator for safety and efficiency. It pays $85,000 annually, plus bonuses tied to company safety metrics. What's the catch? Vincent asked suspiciously. No catch. But it requires you to acknowledge that your previous management methods were ineffective and potentially dangerous. You'd be responsible for training new employees and helping existing workers transition to better systems. It means admitting you were wrong about how things should be done. Vincent sat quietly for a long moment. I could see him weighing his pride against his mortgage payments. Why are you offering me anything at all? he finally asked. You could just fire me and be done with it. I considered the question. It was fair. I could absolutely terminate him with cause. His safety violations alone would protect the company from any wrongful termination claims. Because Mom loves you, I said simply. And despite everything you put me through, she's been happier these past 10 years than she was in the 8 years after my father left. Vincent looked startled by this admission. She doesn't know about this conversation, by the way. As far as she knows, I'm just here on business. But if you get fired, it'll hurt her. And I won't hurt Mom to get revenge on you. I pulled out a pen and slid a document across the desk. This is a performance improvement plan. Sign it, complete the training, and prove you can be the supervisor this company needs. Do that, and you'll not only keep your job, you'll be promoted and get a raise. Vincent picked up the document and read through it carefully. It outlined everything we discussed: training requirements, performance metrics, safety standards, and the potential for advancement. What if I refuse? He asked. Then you're fired today, with cause, and you forfeit any unemployment benefits. You'll also be blacklisted from every manufacturing job in the region because I have connections throughout the industry now. I wasn't bluffing. My consulting firm had worked with 43 companies across 3 states. One phone call from me could make Vincent unemployable in his field. You really did it, Vincent said quietly. You actually became successful. Despite your best efforts to convince me otherwise, he set down the pen without signing. I need to ask you something. Go ahead. Why was I so hard on you? I mean, really, why did I spend all those years telling you that you'd fail? The question caught me off guard. I'd expected defiance or excuses, not introspection. I think that's something you need to figure out for yourself, I said after a moment. Vincent nodded slowly. Maybe I was jealous. You had opportunities I never did. College, career options, potential. I worked construction until my back gave out, then came here. This job, this life, it's all I've got. So you tried to drag me down to your level? Maybe. Or maybe I was trying to protect you from disappointment. In my experience, people who reach too high just fall harder. I studied his face. For the first time in 15 years, Vincent looked vulnerable instead of hostile. That's not protection, I said. That's sabotage. I know that now. Vincent picked up the pen again and signed the performance improvement plan. I'll do the training, he said. Not because I want to keep working for you. This is going to be awkward as hell at family dinners, but because I owe it to Mom, and maybe I owe it to you too. I took the signed document and filed it in his folder. Training starts Monday at 7 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. Vincent stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I am proud of you. I was just too stubborn and stupid to say it before. After he left, I sat alone in the office, staring out at the factory floor that was now mine to manage. 23 years after Vincent first told me I'd never amount to anything, I owned the building where he worked. But somehow, his quiet admission of pride meant more than any revenge I could have orchestrated. Over the following weeks, the transformation of Meridian Industries began in earnest. I hired a team of efficiency experts, updated the equipment, and implemented new safety protocols. The mandatory training program started with predictable resistance from older supervisors, but even they began to see the benefits as workplace injuries dropped to zero and productivity started climbing. Vincent surprised everyone, especially me, by throwing himself into the program. He arrived early, stayed late, and asked more questions than anyone else in his cohort. During the peer evaluation sessions, younger workers commented that he'd become more approachable and less quick to anger. The real test came during the safety training scenarios. Vincent was paired with Timothy Chen, the young worker who'd been burned by chemicals in his section. I watched through the office window as Vincent carefully walked Timothy through proper safety procedures, making sure he understood each step before moving on. At one point, Vincent stopped mid-demonstration and spoke to Timothy directly. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I saw Vincent's shoulders sag slightly and Timothy nod in response. Later, Timothy told me that Vincent had apologized for the unsafe working conditions that led to his injury. By month 3, Vincent had not only passed all his training requirements, but had requested additional coursework in conflict resolution and leadership psychology. The quarterly employee satisfaction surveys showed dramatic improvement in his section, with workers praising his completely changed attitude and new focus on keeping everyone safe. When it came time for promotions, Vincent had earned the highest scores among all supervisors. I called him into my office on a Friday afternoon, the same office where we'd had our first confrontation as boss and employee. Congratulations, I said, sliding an official promotion letter across the desk. You've been selected for the training coordinator position, $85,000 per year plus safety bonuses. Vincent read the letter twice before looking up. Thank you, he said simply. I know I didn't deserve this chance. You earned it through your performance. That's how merit-based promotion works. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are we ever going to be able to move past this? What happened when you were growing up? I thought about his question. The anger that had driven me to buy this company had largely dissipated over the past few months, replaced by something more complex. I think we already have, I said. Not forgotten. I'll never forget. But moved past? Yeah, I think so. Vincent nodded. Good, because I'd like to take you and Mom out to dinner tomorrow night to celebrate your success. Vincent? Yeah? Try to remember this feeling the next time you meet a kid with big dreams and bigger ambitions. I will, he said. I promise. That evening, I drove home to my penthouse apartment, the same apartment Vincent had called too expensive for someone with no real career when I'd first moved in 3 years earlier. But instead of feeling triumphant, I felt oddly peaceful. My phone rang as I was preparing dinner. Mom. Honey, Vincent told me about his promotion. I'm so proud of both of you. Both of us? Well, you for giving him a chance to prove himself and him for actually doing it. He's been different these past few months. Happier, more confident. That's good to hear. He also told me about the conversation you two had on his first day working for you. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't mentioned that to Mom, and I'd assumed Vincent would keep it private. He said he'd spent years being wrong about you, and that you had every right to fire him, but chose to help him instead. I relaxed slightly. He's working hard, Mom. I'm proud of him for that. You know what this means, don't you? What? You're going to be stuck with both of us at every family dinner for the rest of our lives. Vincent as your employee. Me as your mother who can't stop bragging about her successful son. I laughed. I can live with that. After we hung up, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The years of criticism and doubt had indeed shaped me, but not in the way Vincent had intended. Instead of crushing my ambition, his negativity had forged it into something stronger and more determined. The following Monday, I walked through the factory floor and observed the morning shift change. Productivity was up 35%. Safety incidents were at 0 for the 6th consecutive week. Employee satisfaction scores had reached all-time highs. Vincent stood near the new training station, explaining proper lifting techniques to a group of recently hired workers. When he saw me, he nodded respectfully. Not the mocking acknowledgement from years past, but genuine professional courtesy. "Good morning, boss," he said as I approached. "Good morning, Vincent. How are the new hires adjusting?" "Better than expected. Having proper training procedures makes all the difference." One of the new employees, a young woman about my age when I'd started at the gas station, looked up from her notebook. "Mr. Vincent has been amazing," she said. "Really patient, really thorough, makes you feel like you can actually succeed here." Vincent's face flushed slightly at the praise. "That's what good training is supposed to do," I said. "Help people reach their potential." As I walked away, I heard Vincent tell the group, "The boss is right. Never let anyone tell you that you can't learn something new or achieve something better." I made that mistake once, and it nearly cost me everything. 6 months later, Meridian Industries posted its most profitable quarter in company history. The turnaround had been faster and more complete than anyone had predicted. Business journals wrote case studies about our transformation. Industry conferences invited me to speak about effective change management. But the real measure of success came in smaller moments, like watching Vincent mentor a struggling supervisor who reminded me of myself at that age, someone from a broken home who'd been told repeatedly that he wasn't management material, or seeing the pride in Mom's eyes when she visited the factory and observed how respectfully Vincent's trainees spoke about him, or receiving a handwritten note from Timothy Chen, who'd been promoted to assistant supervisor and credited Vincent with teaching him that making mistakes doesn't mean you're a failure, it means you're learning. The company I'd bought for revenge had become something much better, a place where people could grow, contribute, and build better lives for themselves and their families. During our annual performance review, Vincent and I sat in the same office where this all began. "I've been thinking," he said, "about the conversation we had that first day. You said I needed to prove I could be more than a bitter, small-minded man. I remember. I think I have proved that. But more importantly, I proved it to myself." I nodded. "Your performance this year has been exceptional. The training program you developed is being used as a model by other companies in our network. Thank you. But that's not what I wanted to talk about." Vincent shifted in his chair, choosing his words carefully. "I wanted to apologize, really apologize, for all those years of telling you that you weren't good enough, smart enough, capable enough. I was wrong about everything." "Vincent, let me finish. Please." He took a deep breath. "You were just a kid trying to figure out your place in the world. And instead of supporting you, I spent 15 years trying to convince you to give up on your dreams. That was cruel, and I'm sorry." The office fell silent except for the hum of machinery from the factory floor below. "I forgive you," I said finally. "But more than that, I'm grateful. Grateful. Every time you told me I'd fail, you gave me more motivation to prove you wrong. Every criticism made me work harder. Every dismissal of my potential made me more determined to exceed it." Vincent smiled ruefully. "So, I accidentally helped you succeed by trying to make you fail? Something like that. That might be the most ironic thing I've ever heard." We both laughed, and for the first time since Mom had married him, Vincent felt like actual family. 2 years later, Vincent was promoted again, this time to regional training director, overseeing safety and efficiency programs at 4 manufacturing facilities across the state. His salary had nearly doubled since that first confrontation in my office. More importantly, he'd become the kind of mentor to young workers that I'd needed but never had. His programs had trained over 300 employees, with a success rate that was the envy of the entire industry. The kid who'd been told repeatedly that college was a waste of time had built something worth being proud of, a business that created opportunities for others to succeed. And the man who'd spent years crushing dreams had learned to nurture them instead. At our last family dinner, Vincent raised his glass for a toast. "To second chances," he said, looking directly at me, "and to the people who give them to us, even when we don't deserve them." "To second chances," I agreed, "and to proving that success isn't about where you start, it's about refusing to accept limits on where you can go." Mom wiped away a tear and squeezed both our hands. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you. Sometimes it's showing them a better way to be human. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they'll take that lesson and use it to help others avoid making the same mistakes they did." Vincent never again told anyone they weren't capable of achieving their dreams. And I never forgot the power of giving someone the chance to become who they're meant to be, instead of who their past mistakes suggest they are. That, it turns out, is the most satisfying success of all.